What is going on, guys? Hope everyone is doing well. If you guys remember back a few weeks ago, I did a video on some of the data mined information that confirmed details about Chapter 5's Theater of War being a Pacific Naval Theater of War involving American and the Japanese Army. In the latter half of that video, I talked about how DICE's development schedule is usually months to almost a year in advance to things that make it into the game. So for those in the community who are looking for a big change in things like more maps, if there was going to be a chapter where there's a potential to see a shift in DICE's focus, it'd be Chapter 5, as things are already set in motion for Chapter 3 and most likely the majority of Chapter 4 as well. But with Chapter 5 releasing sometime during fall, that's plenty of time for DICE to do a quick turn and really deliver more maps, which is something I'd like to see, and I'm sure a good chunk of the community is looking forward to see as well. We had an interesting tweet by Matt Wagner, who's a level designer at DICE, that gave us a little bit of insight on the focus of what they've been working on. Now, he had a couple of tweets, and I'm going to talk about the last tweet he did first, so it's going to sound a little bit confusing here, but I'll tie in the first part of his tweets in a bit. But he said, "Oh, and before you asked about new maps, you know the roadmap. By the way, fun fact, right now we have more maps in simultaneous development than we ever had in any previous post-launch service, I believe at least. We are just a bit later than usual for, well, reasons." Now, I don't want to get caught up for the well reasons part, but the part that he said we had more maps in simultaneous development than we ever had post-launch. This is awesome. This is the type of stuff I've been wanting to hear. I talked about this in the video I made a few weeks ago, how in Battlefield 1, the first fall chapter, DICE dropped 6 maps in the Name the Czar DLC, and if they dropped that amount of maps around the Pacific Theater of War, how I thought that would boost the morale of the community. However, with that said, I had to stop and think what he meant by maps, because that could mean more maps for Combined Arms or for Firestorm. And even though we got news this week that Firestorm will have its own separate roadmap, which gives me the impression that this is something that Criteria Games will be focused on, not taking away core DICE development for the base version of Battlefield 5, it still had me a little bit concerned on what he meant by maps, because for me, the reason I come to play Battlefield is the massive multiplayer 32 vs 32 experience that has maps that support game modes like Conquest and Breakthrough. Now, unfortunately, I gotta dive into the Ring of Fire here. Pun definitely intended, to get the answer of what modes these maps were made for, because that's a legitimate question, and these are the things that I think people care about the most, especially being now's the time where DICE is doing all this development, and I know I wouldn't want time wasted on things I'm just not interested in playing. And it was asked, when you talk about more maps in simultaneous development, can we have some clarification on what modes are aimed at? It's all well and good if there's 8, 9, 10 maps being worked on for 5 vs 5, but as a community, what we really want and need is 64 player maps. Now, long story short, Matt didn't appreciate this individual speaking for the community when it's just this person's opinion. Personally, it's not my intent to get all caught up in all this, and if you want to check out the rest of the tweets, you have the Twitter name already. If I must give my 2 cents on this briefly, I would just like both parties to get along, but the reason I had to bring this up was that Matt did say he didn't have information to share on what mode yet, but given the fact he made a big deal about that person reflecting his or her opinion being the whole community's opinion, gave me the impression that in a sense he's defending other people in the community's preference of maps not just being for the 32 vs 32 player maps, and that all these maps that are being worked on are not just 32 vs 32 player maps, which to be honest would make sense, as it seems like DICE wants to continue scaling up things on all aspects of Battlefield 5. For instance, we know Squad Conquest is getting at least 3 other maps to be played on in Chapter 4. These won't be brand new maps, but maps we already have in Battlefield 5 that will be scaled down to fit Squad Conquest. We know Combined Arms is getting Fiel 652 added as an all-new map mission for next week on Tuesday, the last day of April. And knowing in June we'll be seeing these 5 vs 5 unique close quarter combat maps, tells me they're probably scaling up in the future to add even more maps for that playlist, and I'm betting they're working on it right now. with the first batch of maps already most likely finished, and if they're not finished, they're on their way and they're just being polished up right now, as they're only a little bit more than a month away till the 5 vs 5 modes get released. And there lies the issue. Now, I could be completely wrong here and assumed incorrectly, which is fine, I'm okay with that. But really, if we're going to be seeing the same model here of still focus on other content, when there's still only been one 32 vs 32 map post-launch so far in Battlefield 5's life cycle, there's something that's just wrong here. And I'm not even against us having squad conquest or 5 vs 5 maps. I'm totally okay with that. It's just when the core thing that brings me to Battlefield, which is the 32 vs 32 experience, is lacking. And again, that's the number one thing I'm looking forward to for content-wise, which is the maps. So where we really need clarity and have that prioritized, feels like it's lacking severely. And that brings me to the earlier tweets Matt tweeted out, where he said he was thinking about preparing a Battlefield 5 maps and modes quality of life survey to get more feedback on existing maps and modes for improvement, and how they gather a lot of data already in game, but the data just tells them what's going on but doesn't tell them why. And in the future, he'd love to see surveys that are in the game. And that's right there, that's hitting it right on the head. You see, the big issue in my opinion is just the lack of communication. And it's hard sometimes too, because even if it might seem like everyone wants something specifically added into the game, doesn't necessarily mean that's everyone. It just could mean those are the more vocal people, and even still to this day, like getting people to go on Twitter and Reddit to communicate what they want, it's just not likely, and people are just busy and they got other things they got to do. And part of the reason why I make these vids in the first place and put them on my channel is to bring that communication as clear as possible to at least people who are on my small little channel. And I still only have a small little following, so it's not going to do all that much damage, but having a quick poll, in my opinion, in game would get this done a lot easier, and answering questions like if people want more maps in the game. You know, where you could put it the best, in my opinion, is between each game, and have the option to click a button where instead of adjusting your character between rounds, you can do a poll for the month or whatever time period DICE wants to do it on for crucial information like the TTK scenario, if you want it to you know, change that or not, or what type of maps you guys want for different playlists in the community. So people would have an option then to chime in and see it right there in front of them, and at the moment in time where they're thinking about Battlefield the most, which is in game when you're playing it. That's what I would like to see. And if everyone votes for no more maps and they want new game modes instead, and things like stuff that I'm less interested in is what is the big priority for the community, I'm okay with that. My big thing is I would just want clarity for the community and for the developers to get on the same page and really understanding what the majority of people want. But what do you guys think about all this? Even though personally Battlefield for me is the core 32 vs 32 player map experience with weapons and factions, of course, and Firestorm was the only game mode that I was really looking forward to playing other than the typical conquest and breakthrough game modes, it doesn't mean that's Battlefield for you. I know it seems like a good chunk of people were enjoying playing grind, and a lot of people have been wanting a competitive Battlefield experience, and the 5 vs 5 mode would serve that purpose. And I do understand, I'm sure there's probably someone out there who's been wanting a FL 652 map to come to Combined Arms, and if you are that person, do let me know in the comments below so I can pin you up at the very top. But that's totally cool, I'm okay with all that. What I would personally like, though, is to still see DICE focus on what I believe is the core Battlefield experience, and to make that the high #1 priority for Battlefield's development lifecycle. But feel free again to let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments below. This is the time when DICE is really, I think, looking at people's comments and feedback, and I think a great opportunity for them would be able to deliver something like a poll in the game itself, where it would really catch everyone's attention and really get DICE's attention to and understanding what we really want in our Battlefield game. But that is it for you guys today. Again, I always appreciate you guys being here. I am Livin', and I'll catch you guys again later.